Have you ever felt like you're in love, but constantly feel like a burden to the person you love? You reach out, they pull away. You crave closeness, they ask for space. You want connection, they seem to be building walls, and soon you start to question yourself. Am I too sensitive? Am I asking for something they're simply unable to give? I'm Jim Rohn, and today I want to help you see something clearly. You're not too much, you're not too needy. You're just loving someone with an avoidant attachment style, someone who learned to survive by keeping their heart away from the very thing they long for: intimacy. They're not bad, they're not toxic, they're just someone who's never felt safe being loved the right way. And if you keep loving them the way you've been trying, with chasing, overanalyzing, micromanaging, or convincing, you'll only reinforce their deepest fear that love equals pressure. But if you learn how to create emotional safety without threat, without overwhelm, without control, you don't just make them more comfortable. You redefine what love feels like to them, and that can change everything. In this video, I'll walk you through exactly how to do that. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with me to the very end. Because sometimes, in order for someone to learn how to love, you have to be the first one who knows how to make them feel safe. Here's what you need to understand first. Avoidants don't fear love, they fear getting hurt through love. They often grew up in environments where emotions were dismissed, where closeness came with pressure, and where emotional needs were inconsistently met. So early on, they learned one crucial lesson. Closeness is risky. Independence is safer. So, even when they feel deeply, which they do, they build walls to protect their hearts. They may love you, but they don't know how to handle that love if it makes them feel out of control. That's why, when you're in love with an avoidant, you'll run into this emotional paradox. The more intensely you love them, the further they retreat. The more you try to prove your love, the more suffocated they feel. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because they've never learned how to experience intimacy without also feeling like they're about to be hurt. You text them more, they go quiet. You want to get closer, they ask for space. You feel anxious, they go cold. Their reactions aren't rejections of you, they're survival reflexes. Pull away before it's too late. And if you respond with panic pressure, self-blame, or emotional chasing, you unintentionally confirm their core fear. See, love isn't safe. So if you truly want to connect with someone avoidant, the first shift isn't about learning how to get them to change. It's about learning how to become a non-threatening space for their nervous system. This doesn't mean shrinking. It doesn't mean loving less or walking on eggshells. It means learning how to love them without turning your affection into pressure. Start with emotional steadiness. Avoidants may not respond the way securely attached people do, but that doesn't mean they're not feeling. They're just watching to see if this time closeness won't come with pain. And it's your consistency, your calm energy, not your overgiving, not your intensity, that helps them begin to lower the shield. Here's what you need to remember. Avoidants don't need you to rescue them. They need you to not abandon yourself in the process of loving them. Because when you stay grounded in who you are, you teach them something they've never seen before. That love can be stable. That intimacy doesn't have to mean sacrifice. That there is a kind of closeness that doesn't take away their freedom, but instead helps them feel safer inside their own skin. So once you understand that your avoidant partner isn't rejecting you, they're reacting to their own fear. The next question becomes, how do you become a safe place they no longer need to run from? The answer doesn't lie in doing more. It lies in showing up differently. You don't need to heal the avoidant. But if you want to build connection, you must understand this. Their nervous system has been wired to perceive love as a threat, which means even if you're not doing anything wrong, if your emotions feel too intense or the closeness comes too quickly, their brain will send the message, warning, too close, danger. And here's the cruel irony: the moments when you love them most sincerely are often when they shut down the hardest. So what they need isn't a grand emotional performance. What they need is a steady, quiet rhythm they can relax into without fear of drowning. It doesn't mean you have to silence yourself. It means you don't co-escalate their inner chaos. You stay clear, you stay warm, but you don't use them to regulate your own emotions. When they pull away, you don't chase and you don't punish with coldness. You hold space. Like an open room, no one is forced to enter, but if they return, it's still warm and safe, not filled with judgment. That is emotional safety. And for the avoidant, this isn't something they're demanding. It's something they've never believed could exist. They don't believe someone can stay if they're not perfect. They don't believe love doesn't need to be earned. They don't believe distance can be honored without being punished. And you, if you're grounded enough, can be the first person to show them otherwise. Not through your words, not through sacrifice, but through a steady presence that doesn't collapse when they don't respond the way you hope. You don't use silence as a weapon. You don't use love as leverage. You don't try to shape them into a more convenient version of themselves. You simply become a clear, self-respecting human who doesn't lose themselves even while loving someone who's still learning how to love back. And when you do that consistently enough, you'll witness something remarkable. Your stability begins to soothe their nervous system. No lecture, no emotional negotiation, just your presence, a presence that doesn't react to their difference, begins to show them I'm still here, even when you're not easy to love. And that's when the first crack appears in the armor. Not because they're changing to please you, but because for the first time in their life, someone is safe enough for them to change for themselves. And once you begin creating emotional safety for an avoidant partner, there comes a deeper lesson. Safety doesn't come only from softness, it comes from boundaries. Many people mistake boundaries for being cold or harsh, for delivering ultimatums, for saying, if you don't do ABC, I'm leaving. But in a relationship with an avoidant, boundaries are not about controlling them. They're about protecting yourself from abandoning who you are while loving someone who's still learning how to love back. Understand this: the avoidant may not intend to hurt you, but their unconscious distancing, their silence, their lack of clarity can wear you down, can make you question yourself, and worse, can make you lose your own self-respect. And when that happens, if you keep waiting for them to be ready, you're no longer loving them from a grounded place. You're trying to be chosen by slowly unchoosing yourself. Boundaries are not walls, they're scaffolding, a safe structure that allows you to love without losing your sanity. Know when to stop. Know when silence is self-respect, not manipulation. Know when distance needs to be honored, not rescued. Communicating your needs doesn't mean demanding they change. It means speaking clearly, calmly, but firmly. When you disappear without explanation, I feel unsettled. I need consistency, not unpredictability. If this relationship constantly puts me in survival mode, it's not connection, it's emotional exhaustion. And if they cannot or will not meet the minimum needs required for you to feel like yourself, then your exit is not punishment. It's a declaration: I won't stay in a space where my self-worth is slowly eroded. Boundaries do not kill love. Boundaries filter out the forms of love that no longer serve you. Someone who's truly ready to connect, even an avoidant, will respect a healthy boundary. They may not understand it immediately. They may even retreat at first. But if there's emotional maturity within them, they'll return with a deeper question. Can I give without losing myself? And am I making someone else lose theirs just to be with me? That's the turning point. They stop loving from reflex and begin loving with intention, not because you fixed them, but because you stopped betraying yourself first. Once you've learned how to set boundaries without shutting off emotionally, you'll enter a new space, one where connection is built through the smallest of gestures. Because loving an avoidant is not like loving someone who easily opens up. It requires a quiet kind of awareness and a heart patient enough not to interpret everything through the lens of insecurity. Avoidants don't say I miss you when they miss you. They don't call after arguments just to make things feel okay. They don't express affection through sweet words or grand romantic gestures the way you might expect. But they'll like a post you didn't think they even noticed. They'll send a vague check-in message after days of silence. They'll reference something you once said, something you thought they had ignored. And if you're not grounded enough to see these indirect signals, you might miss meaningful shifts happening beneath the surface. Worse, you might accuse them of not trying or not loving you enough, when in truth they're quietly testing what it's like to be close, without getting hurt. You don't have to delude yourself into false hope, but you do have to learn how to notice movement in the stillness. For example, they don't reply right away, but they no longer disappear for days. They don't say "I'm sorry," but they ask to meet and talk things through. They don't say "I love you," but they start to open up just a little about parts of themselves they once kept hidden. For someone with avoidant attachment, these are huge leaps, quiet, subtle, but real. And when you honor those small shifts, not by rewarding them, but by not pressuring the next one, you're doing the most essential thing in the process. You're reinforcing safety. Emotional safety doesn't mean zero conflict. It means, even if I'm not perfect, I won't be abandoned. When an avoidant starts to feel that they inch forward, not because you pushed, but because they no longer fear that any emotional expression will be followed by expectations they can't meet. Important note: this does not mean settling for less than you deserve. It means knowing how to recognize emotional growth at a deeper level without compromising your self-respect. If over time their growth plateaus, if there's no reciprocal effort, no active participation, you have the full right to walk away. But when real progress shows up even in small ways, your ability to notice and respond with steady grace becomes the catalyst for further connection. Not all love needs to be loud to be sincere. Sometimes the deepest kind is tucked quietly inside the things most people overlook. After you've learned how to notice the small signals, instead of demanding love to look a certain way, you'll come to realize something deeper. Healing doesn't happen through dramatic gestures or emotional declarations. It happens through repetition, quiet consistency over time. For someone with an avoidant attachment style, intense love might stir their emotions, but it won't build trust, because intensity often comes with expectations, and in their world, expectations feel like pressure. They've been through enough fireworks, then silence connections, emotional highs that led to sharp crashes, intimacy that ended in pain. What teaches them safety isn't the wave, it's the steady rhythm underneath. And consistency doesn't mean always being sweet. It means you don't explode when they need space. You don't disappear when they don't say what you want to hear. You remain, you calm, clear, grounded, and not emotionally manipulative. And that repeated safety, not one-time passion, is what heals them at the deepest level. Eventually, the avoidant starts to internalize a new truth. Closeness no longer equals danger. When that truth reaches their nervous system, not through words but through lived, repeated experience, they begin to shift. At first there's less resistance, then more emotional sharing, and finally, something rare for avoidance, they initiate connection. Not because you did something right, but because you didn't do the one wrong thing, adding pressure, while they were still learning how to stay open. Real love doesn't grow in drama. It grows in quiet, repeated moments where both people don't need to perform to feel worthy or sacrifice themselves to feel wanted. You don't drag them out of their shell. You simply stay present long enough for them to step out when it feels safe enough to do so. And here's what you must understand. This transformation doesn't come in a grand breakthrough. It comes through those repeated moments when you honor their space without freezing them out. You voice your needs without demanding compliance. You don't chase, but you also don't play games with silence. You love them, but you don't need their love to feel whole. True love doesn't arise from the thrill of winning someone. It grows from the deep knowing that whether they stay or not, you don't abandon yourself. And when the avoidant sees that in you a person who doesn't control, doesn't collapse, and doesn't chase, they will begin to choose connection of their own free will. No longer passively receiving love, they begin to actively participate in intimacy. And that's when you finally understand. Real love isn't about grabbing hold of each other intensely. It's about meeting one another in peace. In the end, loving someone with an avoidant attachment style isn't about winning them. It's not about molding yourself into a flawless version who never needs anything, never feels deeply. It's about becoming someone who knows how to love without losing themselves. Someone who listens without self-abandoning, who observes without judgment, who sets boundaries without withdrawing love, and most importantly, someone who knows they deserve a love that reaches toward them, not a love they must endlessly reach for. Avoidants don't need you to fix them. They need you to be mature enough not to use them to fill your emotional emptiness. When you love them from a grounded place, not from emotional hunger, you show them something they may never have seen before, that love isn't a set of demands to meet. It's a safe space where both people can be themselves and grow together. And if you can do that, whether the relationship continues or not, you won't walk away empty-handed. You'll walk away as a more powerful, clear and self-loving version of you. So here's the final message I want to leave you with. Love isn't about changing someone into the version you wish they were. It's about learning their language of safety and speaking it through your own emotional maturity. And if you're on that journey, I wish you the patience, the self-worth and the courage it takes to love fully without ever losing yourself.